In this video, we'll be using SAP Business Objects Data Services to merge two data sets which are in SAP HANA. So the first thing we need to do is to log into DataServices. So we do that by going to Start. We can access that from All Programs, Data Services, and we choose the Data Services Designer. Log in with your credentials. So for me it's student and the password is welcome1, and then it logs you into the system. So to demonstrate this merging concept, what we're going to do is we're going to import a text file and we're going to merge it with a list of existing data in SAP HANA. So to do this, we need to go and create a file format to that text file. So I go to my file formats, right click on flat file and select new, and I'm going to call this one STS acquired. I then select the file which is in my library and it's called STS acquired. It's a CSV and it only has a few rows in it. Now the first line is the header, so we need to skip the row header just so it will move that and that will become an actual header in the actual file format. So a few of the fields are blank, that's fine. The main thing that we're trying to focus on is this company name. But we'll import all the data and this will be used to explain the concept of merge. So now that we've got that data, we can click on Save and Close. And now we can go and build our project. So I'm going to build a new project called Merge with a new job called Merge, which contains a singular data flow called Merge. Now again, we're going to merge two data sets. So the first data set we're going to merge is from HANA, and it's a table that we've loaded into SAP HANA. So if I go to my list of tables, we're going to select the DIM customer table from my HANA data store and include it on the actual canvas. Then we can merge data from any two sources. You don't need to merge data from the same database, or they don't have to both be files or XML files. You can merge any data with any other data because the merge is done on the data services side. So you can merge a file with a table with a WSDL. You can merge anything. So we're going to select that file which is STS acquired and put it on the canvas. And we're going to make it a source. So now we have a text file and we're going to merge that with a HANA table. Now you'll notice that the columns are exactly the same. But even if the columns weren't the same, we can still merge the data. And I'll give you an indicator on how we can do that. So the transform we're going to use is the merge transform. So we go to our fifth tab in our local object library, and within the folder platform you'll see that we've got the transform called merge. You select it by dragging it on the canvas and placing it in between those other two sources. So if I drag and select the customer table and the file into the merge, we can then examine what the merge looks like by double clicking on the merge. So you can see the columns are very, very similar. They're very similar, as you can see here. Now we can see here we've taken the merge from the smallest column. So you see we're actually merging the data and the data types are based on these columns. You can't change the data types here, so there are a few ways in which we can get around this. So one of the ways is before the merge you could place a query transform, and I'll just show you an example of that right before, and obviously change the column data type length here and then join the query to the merge. That's one way. And of course the other source could also have a query transform, and you could of course change column names just to make sure that the column names match. So that's a very simple way to do it. But if I go in here, we can see that the actual data set, we have 20, the company name is 20, postal code is 5, so on and so forth. So it's probably best that we fix the source and make the source look the same. So to do that, I can just go to my file format, double click on STS acquired and fix it here. So we can say the company name is 20, the zip code or postal code is 5. We can say that the city name is, if I just minimize this, is 10, country 15, region 13. So this is 10, this is 15, and this is 13. Of course, it got the base field sizes based on the data that was in the text file. But this is just one of the ways in which you can fix that issue. So I can click on File, I can save what I've got, click OK to save, close the windows and go back into the merge. So if I delete that merge and add the merge again, and join the source and the text file to the merge, what we'll see now when we open up the merge is that all the columns match. One thing you should note about the merging is that you can merge as many data sources as you want. So now that we've decided on which columns we want to merge, in our case it's all of them, we just need to add a query transform. There's a couple of reasons why we need that query transform. The first reason is because we don't have a primary key, because one of our sources is a text file. So to do that, I'm going to select, drag to the end, and then we're going to make a column a primary key. Now, of course, we can't make this primary key the primary key. Why? Because if I go to the data flow and look at the source, some of the IDs here are 1. If I look here, some of the IDs here have a different ID. If I just refresh this, you can see that we also have 128 as an ID. So we'll have to create a new ID. So that's another reason why you might want to have a query transform. So this was the source. I'm going to say, well, actually, this is the source customer ID. And then I'm going to add a new column by right-clicking, selecting new output column and inserting it above. And I'm going to call this the target customer ID. Again, I'm going to make this a primary key and an integer. And again, we can use that old trusted genrow num function, and essentially a genrow num function simply adds a unique integer to each row of the actual data set. Also, I can tell you, well, we don't need some other columns, so I'm not going to select these 3 columns, and I'm just for the demo, I'm not going to select the postal code as well. So of course I can choose to rename columns, I can choose which columns I want to output, and I can add extra columns such as primary keys or load IDs. So of course, now that we've done that, I can go and add the last step, which is add the HANA table. So I'm going to select the template table from the right hand side, drop it on the canvas. Again, it's going to go in the STS schema, and we're going to call this table merged customers. STS merged customers. Then I'm going to click on OK, and then join the output query to the input of the template table. Obviously, the last step now is to execute, and click on yes, that we want to save the object, and then we click on OK to execute the job. Of course, the job completed successfully, and let's look at the monitor tab. So this is showing us that the source table had 124 rows, the text file had 8, and the merged output is 132. If I go back to my data flow and click on the target table, What we'll see here is our complete set of rows. Essentially, it does a union of the data sets. So now we have the new ID and the old ID. This is also known as a surrogate ID. If I scroll right to the end of that 122 rows, what we should see is that when it gets to around 125, then the new ID continues and we can see the original ID. So that's why this column here is called a surrogate key, because this one has to be unique in order to create the table as a column store type table within SAP HANA. But of course we want to keep a record of the original ID. So that's why we've retained the source customer ID. Of course, now we can check in the HANA Studio just to make sure that the data also exists in HANA. I'll expand my database, expand the catalog, expand the schema, and within tables we should now have a new table called STS Merged Customers. If I right click on this and go and do a data preview, we'll see that again the data's included in this table, and of course we've dealt with the issue of the primary key. So that's a very easy way in which you can use SAP Business Objects Data Services to merge or union two disparate data sets. One of them can be a text file and one of them can be a database. They don't have to be the same type. We can then transform the data in DataServices and output the data to SAP HANA.